Raybot.
On today's show, we have an actor who made his breakthrough at this year's Edinburgh Festival, where he won the Foster's Best Newcomer. Since then, he's sold out the Soho Theatre and played the Melbourne Comedy Festival, where he was nominated for the prestigious Barry Award. It's John Kearns. Hey John, how are you?
Good.
Just timing it.
Alright.
Keep an eye on it, yeah, because we don't edit it. Here at the Shambles Podcast, we just let you...
Have we started?
Yeah, we've started, mate.
Yeah.
This is it.
Okay. Okay.
You're not on Jonathan Ross now, mate. Can you imagine that on Jonathan Ross? Be like, oh yeah, by the way, we don't edit this. That's the first bit they say when the act's there.
Did you ever, when you were a kid, imagine you were being interviewed by, like Parky or something? Did you ever do that?
Not really.
I used to, if I came out the shower, I'd always be look at myself in the mirror. I'd always practice. Like I'd imagine him telling me a really hard question, and for ages I'd just stand in front of the mirror going. Wow. Just practicing.
Well, that was a waste of time because he doesn't host chat shows anymore.
He does on Sky.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like that one where it's like the retrospective of their whole career sort of thing, isn't it?
It's a bit like this, but in reverse. I don't have a career to talk about.
As of yet.
As of yet.
But I'm sure you have a long career ahead of you.
Thanks, Harry.
So, let's start at where it started to go right for you. And I just want to talk about, actually I'm quite interested in, first of all, how you got to winning Foster's Award, and then your speech, actually. I just want to talk a bit about that.
Okay.
Where, so basically, you got to winning the Foster's Award completely independently, pretty much, I would say. Apart from, like, the goodwill of a lot of acts and people who wanted you to succeed. You know, you didn't have an agent, didn't have a PR or anything like that, but you had the goodwill of a lot of comedians and certain peripheral figures in the industry, maybe.
Yeah, no, I had help from, like, someone like Sarah Shulman, for example, saw like 10 shows a day. Yeah. And whoever she sat next to, she said, go and see my show.
Yeah, but so anyway, my point is you did it independently. You got it independently. Yeah. And then in your speech, you were like, famously, fuck the industry.
Fuck the industry.
Fuck the industry, and you've kind of like let the industry fuck you really now, haven't you? In the, like, do you know what I mean? It's like so what changed basically? I'm just interested in that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
No, I told people there were 3 people looking to sign me before Edinburgh, and I was going to do a show like at the Pleasance and all this stuff, but then they all backed away because they said, they basically thought it was too risky. And,
you were too risky.
Yeah, and they all said, we'll come back to you after Edinburgh, i.e. if it goes well, we'll then be in touch. So when I specifically told them to fuck off.
In your speech? Or just, yeah, that's who that was aimed at.
So that's what I meant by that.
Yeah.
Because you have to go with people that, will risk it no matter, the long-term plan or whatever.
Yeah.
And so then are you talking about agency?
No, I'm saying I'm saying you got to where you needed to get to independently,
yeah.
And now you're not doing it independently anymore. So I'm just interested in why you felt the need to go down that route, basically, when it had been so successful, when you'd been sort of doing it yourself independently, really.
Well, I went in for a meeting on my own with a production company, and had a handshake deal to write 8 pages for a certain amount of money, and then they send you a massive contract that's like that thick, and then you don't understand it, and then you have another kind of meeting with like radio people, and then they go, what do you want to do? And then they send you contracts that thick again, and so I had no idea what I was doing. So you get someone who does know, and also who can get you a better deal, make sure you're not getting fucked over.
Okay.
So that's, but you know, like going up to Edinburgh this year, they've, you know, my agents have basically said, if you need us, we'll help you. But I've just put myself in the programme, applied to be on the Free Fringe again, and that's it.
Cool, man. So
I've needed help, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna deny that I needed help.
Yeah.
So I went with an agency as well who hadn't led me on or fucked me over.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fair enough. No, it's just like quite a strong statement, and then.
Yeah. No. I can see. But I think it would have, you know, if I was doing Edinburgh this year and went to a paid venue, then it'd be like, hang on, didn't you say last year? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that respect,
I can hold my head up high. Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
no,
like,
I'm just
also you know, auditions and stuff.
Yeah.
I want to go into that field.
Yeah.
How do you get auditions?
Casting call pro, mate.
Does it work for you?
Yeah, mate. Get about 6 emails a day.
Do you?
Yeah. I must follow some of them up actually.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I had a bit of a meltdown after Edinburgh last year.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
It's alright, mate. But you know, I didn't know what to do with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it must have been insane because literally, you I mean, we'll go into more detail on what changed, but pretty much your act didn't change. You know, you were funny before you won the Foster's Award. For a bit of history, I saw John about 7 years ago, and your act, you know, obviously at the core of it, you were funny and great and original, and it took a while for everyone to catch on, basically, and so it must have been really weird for you to have like not been doing too much different, and then all of a sudden you're like the hottest new young comedian. Like,
well, so imagine all that pent up into. So you know, when I won the award, and you're just then standing 6 feet above a room full of people who've just kind of gone to you for years. Like
Steve Coogan standing there.
You're gonna let I don't know. Fuck it. People take these things far too seriously as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, move on. Like, it's good. Yeah, good. There we go. It's like you got to do the next thing now. You know.
Yeah, but it must have been really nice to have that.
Yeah,
recognition.
No, of course. It's like I knew. Like, so when I got nominated, in my head, when I saw who else was nominated, I was like, because I reckon if I got just nominated, I still think it would
you'd have been fine. Yeah.
It would have been fine.
Yeah.
But I knew that. I felt that if I won it, people would. Do you know what I mean? Like, Romesh the next month was on that Live at the Apollo.
Yeah.
Ashling's obviously, she just played the O2 last week. Liam Williams and like Chris Morris watching him at the Invisible Dot. You know, like he'd just done some blaps. So it's like everyone does fine.
Yeah.
Apart from the Australian guy, don't know what he's up to.
Can't even remember his name.
Matt O'Keefe.
Okay, yeah.
He's got his breakfast show. He's
Okay.
like the Johnny Vaughan of Australia.
Well done to him. So the visible change was you got a funny pair of teeth and you put the monk's wig on. That's literally like
That's it.
If for me looking at it, if I was to say what changed, because nothing changed for me other than you put a wig and some silly teeth in.
Yeah.
So talk me through that change, and am I looking at that at face value, or is that literally what happened? Or
that is literally what happened.
Okay, so what did that do for you? What did that do for you?
It just allowed me to feel just stupid. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I went on stage, say like in 2012, I did a bit about... I did about 15 minutes about me being on the Titanic.
Yeah.
And being pissed off that it's sinking because I haven't finished my crossword puzzle, right? That was the premise of that. Someone told me, like, after day 2 of Edinburgh, you know, the crossword puzzle was invented after the Titanic was even around, so it was logically fucked. But then I was walking, it was just, I didn't know what I was doing, really. I walked on, I was, you know, the quote I got from it, which I then used for the show last year, was, John Kearns has come in character, at least for his sake, I hope it's a character. Okay. So it's like, I didn't know what I was, it was like, I was being...
You didn't use the quote that said you were racist.
That was the same article, but I wasn't
Went
racist.
with that one over that, yeah.
I wasn't racist, although I did find a swastika drawn on my head in the urinal. But,
Mate, you're talking to a fellow racist comedian. We've both been called racist.
Well, what happened was,
print,
you know what happened was there? I said, I had a bit in my show, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I live next door to a Chinese guy, right?
Yeah.
And I said he had he was a bad neighbour because he had a really loud doorbell and his kitchen stank.
Right.
Right?
That is a bit racist. No,
but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Logically it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then there was a lady in the front row who went, "That's racist." And I said, "Why?" She went, "You're saying all Chinese people have smelly kitchens." And Kate Copstick is there, right in the middle. And I was just like, and I went, "Well, surely by that logic you're saying all Chinese people have loud doorbells." She went, "Oh yeah, carry on." But obviously then the place is tense.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But, you know.
So, yeah, anyway. You're not racist, but
no,
yeah.
Not a racist person.
Yeah, you were doing that bit about the Titanic.
But yeah, so... it's just, you know, if you put a wig and teeth on now, right, you'd just feel funnier, yeah? You'd feel like prancing around. You'd feel like, if you put a wig on and some teeth, you will start acting differently.
Yeah.
You might start to just pretend to play the piano or start fucking with the light.
Yeah.
It opens you up. You feel like I always kind of cite this example of like, my dad would, when I was a kid, he had one of those stupid hats that, you know, like, they're like, you can get them in, like, they're Scottish hats, so it's like ginger hair and like a,
yeah, you know,
it's just a silly wig. And he'd come down, and it's not funny because it's your dad, but it's just this kind of, almost like he doesn't know he's wearing it. And as a kid, that's the funniest thing in the world, when an adult looks stupid, but he doesn't know. So I never reference why I'm wearing it all. It's just titting about.
For my first question is, do you think it's a magic feather, like Dumbo? You know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's a nice analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, of course it is, because I mean some of the jokes I was saying I did in 2011.
Yeah.
I you know. It weirdly made my material more accessible than it was when I'm just saying it.
Okay.
And it worked, so I just stuck with it.
What do you think would have happened if you had done this show without the wig and teeth?
It wouldn't have been half as funny.
Really? That's
absolutely not.
That's fascinating, though, isn't it?
Well, it wouldn't have been half as funny because I wouldn't have found it funny. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have felt like I was being funny. I would have, like... What's weird is that... So the show last year was about me going to Berlin, walking around on my own, basically, and what I thought about. Now, if I'm just saying this now, which I did do, you're just like, that's quite sad.
Yeah.
Whereas if you put a wig on, you're like, well, who's this guy?
Yeah.
And if you don't mention it, people like looking, they're like, oh, there's a real guy behind there. It's all bollocks.
Yeah.
I'm fully aware that it's bollocks.
So, will you do a show without it, ever, do you think?
Ever. I will one day.
Yeah.
I did a preview in Leicester.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to subvert it. And the thing with subverting something is you got to have something to subvert.
Yeah.
Like everyone in the audience had no idea who I was. So when I was playing around with like the meta idea of who am I really?
Yeah.
They were just like, why the fuck? What's this guy?
Who are you anyway?
Yeah. They're like, who is this guy? And I'm giving them 3 options. So so in my head I went, well, just stick with what works for now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do another show like that, and then. But like, so the thing is, I'm doing a radio show, yeah, for 15 minutes.
Very nice.
As who I play on stage, even though it's going to be for radio.
John Kearns.
Yeah.
The character John Kearns.
But who I'm playing? But I'm going to wear all that stuff when I'm recording it.
Yeah. You should call the character John Curtains.
You managed me, and you gave me lots of advice, some good advice. One of your worst bits of advice was you would say, you said I should call myself John Curtains.
It's funnier.
And you always sent it to me in the Only Fools and Horses font. And I thought you were joking for a long time, but slowly I realised you were slipping it into quite serious conversations.
Yeah. And I still stick by it. I think it's funnier than John Kearns. Anyway.
You think I should call myself John Curtains?
I still do, yeah. I'm going to stick by that piece of advice. I think it's funnier. And, yeah. John Curtains. It's funnier. Anyway, so you're doing a radio show dressed as your character. That's great.
No, but what I'm saying there is the idea of... So you're saying all about, the idea of do I feel funnier? Why do I wear it? I'm doing it for radio, so you can't see me.
Mm.
But I've learned that it benefits me. Because also, if you've got a big chunk of plastic in your mouth, it makes you say things funnier.
Yeah.
And you can't help yourself saying certain words. So it makes you piss yourself laughing.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, like, have you seen, like Matt Berry?
Yeah.
Just his voice, he can just say anything. He
Yeah,
can say a
that's great,
sentence and it's just fucking hilarious. He can do that with, like, just the way he pronounces words and just... So it's kind of... If you can find a way of distorting your voice, like he can with his actual, his voice. But it makes you laugh, and then that just comes across, I think, on a stage.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing the stuff at the moment.
Well, it's not about me, this, but yeah. Turn the interview on me. We're talking about you, John. I mean, I am a very talented comedian, I know that, but let's talk about you. No, but that's actually a really fascinating point, that it makes you laugh, and then that momentum carries you fit. And also the little extra laughs you get from the teeth falling out or like saying a word wrong, that's just going to add an energy and a momentum.
Well, like you can get sick of your material, yeah? You can be saying the same set.
I haven't had that myself, but yeah, I've heard.
Well, you've got to have material.
Huh?
You've got to, come on, but like, you can get bored of it.
Yeah.
And you're not bored of the joke, you're bored of the rhythm.
Mm.
Your brain's 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
Your body's outside waiting for you to finish. You could still be on stage doing it.
Mm.
What I found when I just wore stupid stuff was that you had no idea when, like, your teeth might fall out, because then that breaks your rhythm completely.
Yeah.
So you're completely in the moment.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, the dream for any performer is to recreate the being in the moment. you know, and
Well,
and that's the hardest thing to do, to break out of it where it becomes scripted. You know, where every gig you approach it and it's fresh and new and in the moment.
I did. So it's like going to Edinburgh. You do the show 22 times.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Like, you don't want it to be 22 of the same show. It got to be. You've got to progress. You've got to learn new things about it as you go on. It has to create a momentum, a shape. You know, in Edinburgh, your last show will be different to your first show.
Yeah.
And that only comes about through listening to the audience and what they're telling you, and not getting bored of it. You know, you're not an actor. You're not up there reading a monologue. The audience are so important. Hence why you got to be there with them, kind of thing.
Yeah, like that. I've always found it fascinating when you say to an audience, someone who's in the audience and doesn't really know, go to a lot of comedy, isn't like a big comedy fan. When you tell them that you write your material, they're like in shock.
Oh, they can't believe it.
Yeah. They I think so. The trick of stand-up, I think, is to create the illusion that it's off the tongue. I think, and that is the trick of comedy.
That's also why I think. That's why comedy is also one of the most thankless. The aim of a comedian is to make it look like you're not doing anything.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just nuts. Like, the people that work so hard that, you know, Eddie Izzard, people think he's just talking.
Yeah.
But it's 80% written down.
Yeah.
You know? It's incredibly tight.
Yeah.
But people watch it and they're just like, you know, he gets no credit for his writing skills from, you know, someone who might go to comedy. Yeah. They just think he's a funny guy. So when they see someone maybe just starting out and they might have a notebook, or you're flustering over a line, or you're tripping up, like you said, they can't believe. They're like, what?
Yeah, I think any time you do material and you're reading off a piece of paper, it never works, because the illusion of live comedy, I think, is that it's all off the cuff, made up.
Yeah.
I think the best stuff is when it's off the cuff, like what you're talking about when your teeth fall out or you don't know something's going to happen. That's the funniest thing. Like I've always said, the funniest thing you ever see is like someone falling over in the street, you know, and you can't ever or your mum banging her head or something like that. You know, that's funny.
Yeah.
And you can't. No matter how much you write, you never quite get to that same level of funniness. I think it can never quite be recreated.
That's what like clowning they kind of try and do, is finding that kind of moment, I guess.
Mm.
But like you said, but it's like how your friends make you laugh the way a comedian probably can't make you laugh.
Mm.
The way, like you said, you know, you've been framed as a funny show. It's very funny. Someone opens a fridge and the door comes off and he falls back. Well, show me that 50 times.
You'll probably do the voiceover for You've Been Framed one day, I reckon.
One day.
Yeah. Alright, let's do some quickfire questions.
There's no draw. I thought there was... Oh my...
Shambles. Okie doke. For all the comedy nerds. No, what are you laughing at?
Just the comedy nerds.
Yeah.
I know that you've met most of them.
Who has?
Me.
You've met most of them, have you?
There's quite a few regulars things.
Yeah. Oh, so you're starting to get the regular.
Not on my gigs. Like gigs that I'm doing, maybe.
Yeah, because I've never tapped into that. So they never come to Shambles or any of my gigs. I don't know why. I see them. Everyone else, they never come to mine. I've always been interested. Why not? But anyway, that's a discussion for another day, possibly. That comedy nerd circuit. They don't come to my gigs. Don't know why.
That is weird.
Yeah.
That is weird.
Never see them here.
There's three. I can picture three right now who are regulars.
Yeah.
They things.
Never see them at my gigs. Never been. Only been doing this for 10 years. They've never come. Anyway.
Oh fuck.
Let's think. What makes you laugh?
What makes me laugh?
Yeah.
When I'm on my own, when I've done something really pathetic, or I look pathetic, like if I, say for example, you come out of the shower, and I'm in my room and I walk past the mirror, and I just look at myself, and it just, you look so wet, and like the towels around my gut, it just looks so shit. That makes me laugh. And friends that aren't in comedy.
Okay. So yourself.
Me. No, but me at my worst.
Okay.
Me at my worst.
So, if you weren't a comedian, what do you think you would do? Like, if you had a choice in career and nothing artistic.
When I worked in Parliament, I like the idea of being one of the people that work in... They're very skilled, so I don't think I would have been able to do it. But the Hansard writers...
The what? Hansard?
Hansard, yeah.
Yeah.
They write every word said in the House of Commons.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that'd be really interesting.
Why?
But like, why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Writing up someone else's words.
Yeah.
So, pick one. Richard Pryor, Bill Hicks, Jerry Seinfeld.
Funniest.
No, just pick one.
Just pick one?
Yeah, pick one. Maybe you can tell me why if you want, why you pick that one.
Right. People always mention Richard Pryor being the greatest, but it's like what we were talking about earlier. I laughed. If you're gonna say funniest, Brian Connolly, I've laughed more at than Richard Pryor.
Okay.
Like, Richard Pryor was a genius, a comedic genius. There's no question of that, yeah? But when I was like 15, I typed in Standup into Amazon, and what came up first was Richard Pryor and Bill Hicks. So I bought the Richard Pryor box set of the Warner albums.
Yeah, I've got that.
There's about 10 of them, I think. And I bought Philosophy, the best of Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
I listened to every Pryor album, right? Incredible, like, I love, like, the vulnerability he shows is obviously phenomenal and all that. But I listened to them studying them kind of thing.
Mm.
And also at the time, at the time what he was saying was incredible. And especially if you were black in America.
Yeah.
So I'm this white kid, I can't relate to it as much as you would have back then.
Okay, I'm not sure I agree with that. I think it's pretty timeless, his stuff. I think it's still
No,
funny now. But, like...
It is still funnier now.
Yeah.
But I'm saying I've laughed more at other people than Bill Hicks and Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
So when people cite them as who they look up to, it's kind of weird. Like I said, when I was a kid, Russ Abbott, Brian Connolly...
Bobby Davro.
Well,
even as a kid.
Do you remember Barrymore?
Yeah. Barrymore was great.
Barrymore was hilarious.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Like, obviously, it's gone wrong now.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid and you're watching him running around, looking at grannies and then looking at the camera, whilst there's a woman in a Croydon shopping centre singing "I Will Survive" and he's hiding behind a bush, like, that was that. I've laughed more at that.
Yeah.
Than probably Richard Pryor.
Yeah. I'd agree.
So I'm going to say Seinfeld.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, let's move on to who's the funniest person you know who doesn't work in comedy?
There's a guy called Chris who lives in Norwich.
Yeah.
He's an out-of-work actor who, to make money, is a nude model. and he's also depressed, so he gets money off the government. But he was a new model on Channel 4, and you saw his cock, because it was this tribe somewhere in the world that that worship the Duke of Edinburgh, and Channel 4 brought them over here, and they live naked. Yeah, they live naked, right?
Okay.
And they came over here, and it's like we all wear clothes, but people get naked for actual living.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? And so they went and visited a life model class, and my mate was the life model, and there's a picture. He's like 40, and he looks like Hugh Grant, and he's ripped because he's unemployed. He just goes to the gym, and it's just this tribe standing around him, and he's naked in the middle. But he's one of the funniest men I know. And then there's a guy called Peter Lee, who I used to work with, who's nearly 50. He weighs 19 stone. And he is probably the funniest person I've ever met in my life. Like, just the funniest person in the world.
Yeah.
Just you've met.
Yeah. I used to work with a guy when I worked at Arprise who would just have me in hysterics.
Yeah, like he you sit down, anything.
Yeah.
He would talk about his day, like anything. He would just talk about what he'd done that day, and you'd be crying with laughter.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you meet these people, you're like, you gotta do comedy. You've got, and they just can't be asked.
No, not interested.
It's like, you know, like how Rodney Dangerfield, before he was Rodney Dangerfield, just couldn't. He stood on street corners with everyone, and he was always the funniest guy. But and Lenny Bruce was around at the same time, and he said, "You've got to do these jokes on stage," and he was like, fuck it, no. So then Lenny Bruce went, "If you don't do them, I'm gonna do them." So Lenny Bruce did a lot of his material, because Rodney Dangerfield, that's not his name, but you know, he was like, whatever. He then went trucking for 4 years.
Yeah, he was a door-to-door salesman, wasn't he?
And then he came back, and then obviously was like...
Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the best gig you've ever done?
Last year, Edinburgh show, on the Friday before the awards, because I remember thinking, well, you've got this far, the room's full, no matter what happens tomorrow, you've worked hard and it's gone well. And I remember just letting go of anything that I felt, that I was just like, it's kind of out of my hands now.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky because somebody actually filmed it. So I've got it.
Oh, great.
And I don't know. I think that the best gig you do is always like, it's never the biggest, you know. It's never when you gig with like someone you look up to. It's usually the ones where you either come up with new stuff, or you have a breakthrough with like a bit of improv. It's like what we were talking about earlier. It's when it's just, especially just exactly how the audience love a gig, where they're like, oh, that's only going to happen tonight.
Yeah.
That's always the best gig for a comedian, where you're just like, that won't happen anywhere else. So last year, that show that I did, I just remember having a lot of fun. I was relaxed, and so yeah, it's probably Edinburgh last year.
And worst gig you've ever done?
Worst gig? Fuck. There's so many.
Is there? Yeah, there must be one that stands out.
Well, the one that I always remember as being the worst gig, I remember because I told my mum about it. I got home and I was living at home, and I was like, I don't tell my parents anything.
No.
You know, I don't tell them if I had a good gig, because then if I come home and I don't say anything, then they're like, do you know what I mean? I never let them know how the career was going, because then I hoped one day I'd be able to go, oh, I had this, which happened last year, really. So I remember I just started a job in 2009, April, and it was at the Good Ship, you know it?
Yeah.
And
did a gig there a couple of weeks ago.
It's like a bear pit.
Yeah.
And I was doing all right, and then I did this bit about. I basically just talked about hedgehogs, like they get their heads stuck in McFlurry pots and die. But instead of saying the word hedgehogs, I said lesbians. So I'm just talking about lesbians, but I'm talking about hedgehogs, and it was fine. It was funny. There was a girl in the front row who really hated me, but weirdly, to the point where I was like, I don't even know why.
Yeah.
So I got her up. Like I've always done.
You?
I know.
Yeah.
I've always
You've
done.
You've got
it.
a ret sensor for doing that.
I always, if I see one person that hated it, bang, I'm involved with them, and it's obviously it always goes wrong. But I was talking about it, and I thought I'd get her involved, so I said I pretended to be a hedgehog. I turned the stool upside down, pretended to be a hedgehog, and just put my head in the stool. And there was about 100 people looking at me, and I went. I can't remember what I wanted her to do, but she then just jumped on my back and started spanking me and riding me. And I was like, and everyone then starts pissing themselves laughing, but I could tell she was really kind of wanting to hurt me.
Yeah.
And I was a bit scared. I was like, actually, this is a bit, everyone's pissing themselves, and I had to kind of get off her a little bit.
Yeah.
She went and sat back down, burst out crying, and then just started screaming at me. I was like, fucking hell, what's going on? Her mate was like, oh God. Took her out. I'm there, everyone's looking at me now like, what the fuck's just happened here? I go out at the end, try and talk to her, and she is on the street going absolutely insane. She wants to beat me up. And I spoke to a friend, and it turned out there were other issues. It wasn't me that triggered it off. But I was upset because I thought I'd clearly upset this woman.
Yeah.
I was genuinely hurt. I was like, fucking hell, man. I was like, I'm not saying anything here. And I felt awful. And I met Robin Ince. And he...
That night?
Yeah, and he didn't see it. He just saw her reaction,
Yeah.
and he was like, what did you do? What did you say up there? I was like... So that was a bad one.
Wow.
And then there was another one where, again, it was going awfully.
Yeah.
It was at Monkey Business.
Classic.
Saturday night, big gig.
Yeah.
I was getting heckled, and I decided to pretend to be a pig, smoking a cigar and wearing a hat. And
So if you've learned anything from these two experiences,
Don't
it's
get
when
on
it's
all
going
fours.
badly, do not pretend to be an animal.
don't get on all fours.
Yeah. Have you ever got a standing ovation?
No.
Not yet. Fair enough. Just.
Uh,
I haven't asked that question, but I thought I'd drop it in today because I think it might be quite. No.
no.
Fair
I
enough.
mean, they were standing.
But you made them stand. Or
There was one. No, actually, that gig. Everyone stood up at the end.
on the Friday.
Yeah, and I only get half the room up.
Right.
But
yeah.
that's cheating, isn't it? I've never had one of those ones where. Although I've sat in a standing ovation.
Have you?
No, as in you must have been in a show where someone's got a standing ovation, not comedy, theatre.
I can't remember one, but yeah, possibly, yeah.
You always go. Oh, fuck. No, everyone in the room hasn't gone like that. You
Yeah.
always like. There's always three nutters who've just gone And everyone's looking at him like idiots, twats. But then a guy in front of you stands up, so...
I read a thing in the paper the other week, actually, about Dustin Hoffman, where he had to go out... He was in a play. He had to go out on stage and tell them that Laurence Olivier had died. And he said he got a standing ovation for that. And he was like... He'd been there for 6 weeks, hadn't got one standing ovation, and he walked off stage and he went, "You've got to die. That's how you get a standing ovation."
Well, did you see what's her name? Who sings "The Wind Beneath My Wings"?
Oh,
Beaches.
Yeah, Bette Midler.
Bette Midler. She sang "Wind Beneath My Wings" at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Whilst they were showing the obituaries.
Yeah.
So they've showed 40 dead people. Obviously, everyone stands up to applaud. She takes the applause like it's for her. She was just standing there like... She starts crying. She can't believe it. I'm like... They've just showed 40 dead people.
And what's your favourite club to play? That's the last question.
Favourite club?
Or venue, or room, or...
It's always what this might sound ridiculous, but this is a great room.
Everyone always answers this question. It's like I've set it up for them to be like, well, it's actually your game, you know.
No,
but
here.
Yeah.
So Aces and Eights in Tufnell Park.
Yeah.
The Harrison in King's Cross. Basically, 50 seaters, dark.
Yeah.
Low ceilings.
Yeah.
Like, again, I did the Leicester Square Theatre main room.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done the Union Chapel.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see a thing up there. You've got lights in your eyes. Those are the biggest gigs I've ever done.
Yeah.
I was talking to Rob Beckett, because he did the O2 thing, and I was like, what was that like? 20,000 people. You can't see it. You can't see anything. Like, the best gigs are rooms where you can see the bloke at the back hating it, and then somebody else in the corner pissing themselves laughing because they love it.
Yeah.
And also, it's better for the audience. Like, I think it's hilarious when you can, a table love it, because they almost like seeing the guy over there not like it's intimate.
Yeah.
So the best rooms are always that.
Small rooms, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was a good laugh, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it's it's just, I imagine myself... My kids will see this. Do you know what I mean? My kids will see everything I've tweeted.
Oh, we got anything to plug?
When's this coming out?
Don't know. But anything you want to...
Well, that's your...
Well, I don't know, like 6 weeks.
6 weeks' time? Well, Edinburgh.
Edinburgh. So John will be playing Edinburgh, same time, 5:30. Is that right?
5:05.
Oh, wasn't far off, was I?
Voodoo Rooms.
Voodoo Rooms.
Edinburgh Fringe. The show is called Shtick.
Did you ask Jews if it was alright to use that?
I asked Jews.
Ask the Jews. You're using one of our colloquialisms. Cool, man. Alright, good stuff. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Harry.
That's alright.
Raybot.